Yep.
All right, there he is. He's daring you, audience. He wants tough questions. Caleb's a great guest. We've had him on before, and I look forward to this tomorrow night. So thanks for stopping by. Let folks know what we have in store tomorrow night. And,
thank you. It was a
Good
pleasure.
luck, guys.
Thanks for having us, Jeff.
All right, take care.
See you, Scott.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Yep.
All right, Scott, you want to take a few live questions? Let's see, we're a little less than an hour we've been at this, not quite an hour yet. You got a few more minutes?
Sure.
All right. Ann, why don't you get some live questions lined up? And hang on a second here.
Got it.
Okay, Ann, great. And we're saying bye to Tyler. There you go. Matt from Morristown, New Jersey. I once heard you explain away Prigozhin's insubordinate outbursts by suggesting they may be part of a larger intelligence game the Russians are playing. In light of his most recent comments in which he castigated Shoigu, is that still your position?
Yeah, it is. And it's based upon some pretty well-sourced information. I'm not going to get into details while I'm in Russia, but yeah, it's that. I mean, there's a real problem between Prigozhin and Shoigu. As I said, you don't get both those people summoned before the president of Russia to be chewed out if there wasn't a problem. But the some of the things that Prigozhin said were definitely political theater, and look where they are today. They're still fighting. It's what is today, the 11th or the 12th? 12th maybe.
Well, here it's the 11th. I think where you are, it's the 12th.
So it's the 12th. You know, he was supposed to abandon Bakhmut on the 10th. Wagner didn't abandon Bakhmut on the 10th. What's that tell you? You know, they talked about having our ammunition starvation, but right after Putin summoned Shoigu and Prigozhin in, you know, they firestormed the Ukrainian positions with incendiary ammunition. Artillery is still being brought to bear on the problem. So there's politics. Prigozhin was playing a political game, a political theater, but it's also designed to, I think, lure the Ukrainians into doubling down on Bakhmut under the perception that that somehow Wagner was defeated. Wagner was going to retreat, and you know, Ukraine sent some of their best units into Bakhmut, indicating that they may have fallen for the bait, and those people are dying right now in huge numbers. So, sometimes the best theater has an element of reality to it. And there's definitely an element of reality in terms of the conflict between Shoigu and Prigozhin, but there's also, again, political theater taking place, and I think we're seeing that play out right now with the continued operation of the Bakhmut meat grinder.
All right. Let's go to a few live questions coming in on YouTube and Facebook from the legendary Ryan Milton. There he is. You want to look like him? Buy the T-shirt at scottrittermerch.com. Think about it. It takes a week or two usually to look like him once you have that T-shirt on. Scott, based on this trip so far, where should Americans go first when visiting Russia? He's no muscle-bound dummy. This guy's a thinker, too. He's got it all together. Good question.
Well, I mean, I think the city that would be most accommodating for people, of course, is the capital city of Moscow. It's an extraordinarily modern city, clean. The subway is just an unbelievable experience, especially if you're from New York and you've seen what our subways look like. And it's very modern, very Western. You know, to give you a chance to get a feel for Russian history, Russian culture. There's a lot of museums. There's a lot of art galleries, etc. But you know, it's also a misleading picture of Russia. And you know, if you think about it, the annual budget for Moscow in terms of investments, etc., is pretty much close to the same for all of Russia. So Moscow gets heavily invested in. There's 333, metro stations in Moscow. They're building, they're expanding the metro at a pace of 10 stations a year. Metros are very expensive to build. In Ekaterinburg, I think they have 10 stations. So when you leave Moscow, the glitz and the glamour go away. I mean, St. Petersburg is like Moscow, big city, beautiful city, lots of history, a lot of culture, a lot of art. These are the two cities that would be the most receptive to people who don't speak the language, maybe don't have an appreciation of Russia. It would give you a chance to get acclimated to Russia, but you got to leave these two cities. I mean, that's the beauty of what's going on here. Getting out into the rest of Russia and seeing just how wonderful this country is, how wonderful the people are, to understand, the local culture, the pride that people have from being from Ekaterinburg. These are people that know their history. They know how this city was founded. Americans, rightfully so, love our history, love how our nation was founded. We talk about our explorers. We talk about, how we built this nation. Now, the Russians have the same story. And, this city that I'm in right now, Ekaterinburg, is part of that story, conceived by Peter the Great, expanded by Catherine the Great, Ekaterinburg, furthered by the Soviets. This is a major industrial hub. It's a major cultural hub. I'm meeting today with students from a society that's designed to prepare them for international relations. These are students that could be the future ambassadors of Russia here in Ekaterinburg. It's the fourth largest city in Russia. They like to consider themselves to be the third capital because they're competing with Novosibirsk head to head for development. And as I said, the economy is booming. Things are happening. People are working. Just to show you how strangely weird Russia is. I mean, I don't mean this in a bad way, but when you drive around the cities, you see cars parked on the side of the road, and you see these yellow scooters parked on the side of the road. And you can, let's just say, Jeff, you and I were walking through Ekaterinburg, and we said, and somebody texted us and said, "Hey, could guys make it to dinner tonight?" And we're like, "Well, no, we can't because we're this way and all that." Well, what we can do is, if we had our app, we can go up to one of these cars, type it in, car opens up, starts in, we drive, park near their house, park it, boom. We just rented a car for 10 minutes. And they're all over this place. They have yellow scooters. Kids are running around, and they're, if they want to go visit their friend, they just, on every street corner, there's a whole bunch of these yellow scooters, and you just, with your phone app, tap in, boom, get in, ride, and drive off. No one steals these things. This society is.
Well, let me ask
amazing.
you about the subway. You mentioned the subways there are a lot cleaner than in New York City, which is a high jump over a low hurdle. But what about crime? Are they? What sort of people are on the subways there, and are they safe?
Subways are terrific. I mean, they're very safe. The people that are on there are commuters. They're people who are commuting back and forth. There's no, the idea. There's no homeless problem in Russia. I mean, I'm not saying that there's no homeless. I'm not pretending that Russia is a utopia. I'm not going to go down that path. But what I am saying is, I'll tell you what. No matter what city you are in America, you will find the tents. You'll find the cardboard boxes. You will find the people huddled in the corners, etc. That doesn't exist here. It just doesn't exist here. Everybody has a constitutional right for a house. And
there's a huge I don't know if you probably aren't keeping up on the news here, but there's a huge controversy in New York that's very reminiscent of the Bernie Goetz situation. You remember Bernie Goetz, right? So it was a Marine veteran who, and the reason I'm comparing it to Bernie Goetz, and I'm not the only one, a lot of people are comparing it to that, is because he perceived threat, but it wasn't all that explicit. So there's a question of whether or not he was overreacting. But a mentally disturbed homeless guy on the train was acting up, and a Marine veteran put him into a chokehold, and the guy died. And this is a huge have you caught wind of this at all where you are? Oh yeah.
No.
Yeah. So he hasn't been arrested so far, but there are demonstrations in New York, and people are jumping into the subway tracks and blocking trains. This is how they protest because they want the guy arrested. So that's what's going on here.
That's not happening here. I mean, look, there's problems in Russia. Of course, there's problems in Russia. To say there's not violent crime in Russia is an absurdity. You can go on Telegram channels and see examples of violent crime. What I'll say is this, though. I've watched a couple clips of Russian police dealing with mentally disturbed people with knives. They don't shoot them. The Russian police run in there and they resolve the situation. They do their best to gain control of the situation without killing this person. Then they take the person off to get the help they need. If things I've watched, if this was an American police, they would have shot them on the spot.
Right. Well, now in this case, the story I'm talking about was a Marine veteran. He put the guy in a chokehold. Is part of the Marine training? Does it tend to involve whether or not to use that kind of a hold or not, or is that not?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how old this Marine is. I don't know where he received his training. The current Marine martial arts training, the McCrap, I think they call it, or something of that nature, has part of its the training escalation management, meaning that you use the old Marine training, which yours truly received, was 100% going for the kill. That's it. There's no escalation management, and so the Marine Corps decided that wasn't the best way to approach this issue. So they teach escalation management. They teach control. You're taught extreme violence if necessary, but you're also taught how to manage the situation. Whether or not
yeah, because that's the crux of the matter of this controversy.
Marines don't teach chokeholds. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Chokeholds not part of.
I asked because this guy apparently was not intentionally trying to kill him, but the thing is, should he have not known that this was a move that potentially could be lethal?
He wasn't trained on that move by the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps doesn't train chokeholds. That's not what combat's about. But again, I'm not his lawyer. I'm not him. I don't know the situation he's in.
We were talking about this on one of our other podcasts last Sunday, Scenes from the Evolution, and some of the folks on your Telegram channel were commenting on it too. All right, let's get a couple more questions and then let Scott get to his day. What do you got, Ann? Thanks for the donation. Conda Strike. The Atlantic Council reported a one-tank-only parade where the Victory Day celebrations actually truncated this year.
Well, I mean, they're talking about the military hardware part of it. After the troops march by, they come by. The Russians came out with a T-34-85, which is a World War II tank. The crowd loved it. It's the tank that won the war for Russia. Then they followed it up with a reduced display of tactical combat vehicles, the Iskander missiles. They had a battalion's worth of Iskanders, and they had the S-300 missiles, and then they had the I think it was the Yars mobile missile, and that was it. I think the feeling was that it would be inappropriate to display main battle tanks when you have a war going on. A lot of people out there, that's proof that the Russians don't have any tanks. I think the proof that Russia has tanks is in Ukraine right now. Russia's at war. There was a lot of people that thought that it was inappropriate to have this parade to begin with. Why have a parade when troops are fighting and dying? But the parade is a celebration of the victory over Nazi Germany, and so the parade was held. They didn't have the Immortal Regiment march in Moscow because the idea of putting 1 million people in the streets was just it was like that's too juicy of a target for the Ukrainians. And as I said, the Ukrainians did send 3 drones against Moscow on May 9th. It was truncated. But I think people.
So there was some controversy over whether or not it should happen, because to me, it's not at all like anything like hedonism or something. It seems to me like there's a certain, it's solemn actually. Is not the vibe there?
There's nothing solemn about this parade. It's a celebration. This parade is joy.
Well, maybe that's not right, but respectful. Is it not very respectful about what?
May 9th is nothing but respect to veterans, respect for the history of that conflict, and respect to the men and women who serve in the Russian armed forces. It's pure respect. But there was concern that look, there was a fireworks display on that night, a spectacular fireworks display. I actually got a sort of a front row seat to that on top of a high-rise building in Moscow. And it was wonderful. And you know, families were on the roofs. Entire families were on the roof. This is what, to me, an American Independence Day celebration should be. People watching, but the kids were just, they're crying out, "Ura, ura, Dien Pobeda, Dien Pobeda," Victory Day, victory. This means something to everybody. The whole crowd was ecstatic, joyous, and that's why they did it, because I think they were proving that you can celebrate Russian history, but there was also concern about the expense of the fireworks. This is a nation at war, and that was an expensive fireworks display, and there was some concern that some people might interpret it as being the government being a little insensitive to the fact that troops are at war. But I think the overwhelming sentiment amongst the Russian people were, we're not going to let the Ukrainians or anybody interfere with our celebration of the glory of our ancestors. And that's what it's all about. These people continue to say, my grandfather's looking down on me. He died in the war. I can't disgrace him. I can't disgrace his memory. We have to celebrate him. It means so much to these people. I don't think Americans quite comprehend what it is. And I don't think, people need to also understand, in the West, they saluted Zelensky for renaming Victory Day Europe Day or something of that nature. The disgust that the Russians have for Zelensky over that act is palpable. I mean, he's a traitor. He's betrayed everything he stands for. I wish every American could be in Russia on Victory Day and see it firsthand and understand what it means to the Russian people. It's it's something that it's hard to put into words. You just have to see it yourself to believe it. The genuine, heartfelt, visceral love of their country and their history that the Russian people have. And like I said, I just wish we could do that. Our Independence Day has become, gathering around, having a picnic, popping a beer, playing games, watching a parade, and then that's it.
Cheeseburgers, medium rare.
Yeah, but for the Russians, this is their soul. This is who they are. This defines them. And Independence Day should define Americans. It should be something where we have the same level of emotion, this visceral love of country. But instead, it's just become a holiday, a picnic, and that's it.
Okay, Scott, I want to respect your time. Thanks for squeezing us in today. As far as the rest of the trip there goes, my assumption is we're just going to continue to play it by ear, right? We're not really in a position of scheduling anything, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the big problems is the time difference, making sure, because when I'm available, sometimes it's not convenient for you. So, I will do my best as the schedule goes on to find a window of opportunity where we could do something like this again. I think it's value. I thought I was going to have more time to write while I'm here, but that just hasn't been the case either. So I apologize to people on Substack who are expecting articles, but it's just very difficult. There's just a tremendous amount of work being done here, and it's important work, and I'm glad to be doing it. So I'll catch up when I get home on the writing aspect of it.
Okay, I'm sure people understand. And the event you're doing tonight, we're going to probably have that up on our YouTube channel within a day. So, folks, we've already shown 2 of your book events there. This would be the 3rd one. So we are staying in touch. We're doing the best we can. And thanks to everybody for their support. Again, tomorrow night in the usual time slot, Strange Bedfellows. Tomorrow night it's going to be Ask the Communist. And if you would like to submit your questions, you can do that at bedfellows.live, bedfellows.live. And you heard Caleb Maupin. He wants difficult questions, so take him up on that. Same with Scott. Scott, you want the difficult questions too. No, these aren't softball questions.
No, they're bitch slapping questions, to paraphrase earlier.
All right. You take care, Scott. We'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody. Thank you very much for your support. We appreciate it.